In today's session, we'll talk about these points. Okay, we'll try to understand what is the security model we have in Fusion applications. Already we know how things can be handled with respect to security and EPS. That also we'll discuss these 2 points. More we focus on Fusion when we are trying to understand this Fusion security model. Always we compare with EPS. Okay, how the security the name how they taken from EBS concept into Fusion, and the naming conventions will be discussed in detail level. And the second thing is we'll talk about users. Is there any difference between the user management means how the users can be created or managed, and where we can say in EBS will assign responsibilities in the same way in Fusion, what we can assign to the users. Those points we'll be discussing. Finally, we'll talk about the configuration part when you are working as a finance consultant or any functional consultant. See, when I talk about yesterday's session or today's session, it's all about to give you the understanding about Fusion applications. So maybe from third or fourth session, maybe I can say one more session. It will be very general session for any area of the consultants. Maybe from fourth session we'll get into our finance area. I mean, till one more session we'll be having, but of course there also will start with our finance area based configuration only. But you can take this session also very generic session where anyone can be the audience for this. Okay, when I talk about this configuration, we'll understand in EBS how we do the configuration. That we don't need to discuss detail level. Everybody know about it. The same how we can handle in the Fusion applications. These are the points we are going to discuss in this session. If somebody is expecting something else apart from this from today's session, I request you to add that point so that I'll take here and we'll have a discussion. Any other expectation you guys has? Because today I didn't plan for much time. Just these three concepts we'll talk about detail for a good amount of time. May not be like yesterday's session, like more than 2 hours. Okay, if any other expectation anybody has to understand from today's session, they can give their point. I can add here. We can talk about it. No? Okay, but that point should be, it's a very generic thing which will help all the people to understand about Fusion application. That kind of point I'm ready to take. Yeah, please.
Lakshman. Yeah, Karthik here. Actually, I am expecting that yesterday we spoke about, you spoke about architecture, right?
Yeah.
So today you are going to explain these concepts, which are, you can relate them with the architecture, right?
Definitely, definitely, that should be there. Everything will be on that base only. We'll be discussing. We'll do that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Hello,
Yeah,
Lakshman?
yeah, yeah, please.
Lakshman, thank you. Sorry. No, Lakshman, I'm just going to make sure whether you are able to hear my voice or not. Yesterday I was trying to.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Fine. Okay, fine. Any other inputs, any other expectations? But it should be very generic thing. That's what my expectation. It should not be very specific to finance or procurement or HCM or PPM. It should be very generic to understand about Fusion application. So that's how I want to run this session. And anyway, more or less we'll touch base on this when we talk about security and all. We'll go with the example of Fusion related. If some other area of the expertise are attending, and they also can understand by comparing with their area. Okay, they can relate with their area and they can understand based on that points. Srinivas, any question? You can see Srinivas is not muted. Okay.
Lakshman, I have one question, Lakshman, for my
Yeah.
knowledge.
Please.
Okay. So currently, I'm working as techno-functional. If I train Oracle Finance Fusion, can I get complete knowledge or not?
So that point we'll be discussing definitely, but let it take when the end of the session, if you don't mind. Definitely, I'll be answering. If you need more information, we can have a just offline call and we can discuss.
Sure, thank you, Lakshman.
Yeah, you can ask me the same in the end of the session. Okay.
Yeah,
If
sure.
more than that, if you need information, we'll connect again later. Right? Done.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Prabhakar. Any other questions? Any other, it's not like question. Any other inputs? You have any other expectation to understand about this Fusion applications? See, yesterday we discussed that. I hope most of the people attended. Okay. Today I can see the number. 17 members are attending. Yesterday I guess 11 members are attended. Finally 10 members. So I think 7-8 members are new guys. For them already we shared the video. If you got a chance of going through that video and all, then you can understand what's all about it. Apart from that, and apart from this, what we are going to discuss today, if you have any other expectation to understand, you can tell me that. I'll be adding that point. We'll talk about more on that. Otherwise, by end of the session, you can ask me if you have something, okay, to get some information from me. Okay, whatever I can share. Fine. Okay. Without any further delay, we'll get into these topics. Okay. So that's all about. We'll understand the security model, how it is handled in the Fusion, and how the users can be managed in the Fusion applications, and the configuration part, EBS, and the Fusion. Okay. Let's get into this. I didn't prepare any slides for this, since these are just where we can understand more theoretical way. Some kind of some representation may not be required. That's what I thought, and I didn't prepare anything. Let's get into detailed discussion of this. Security. Okay. So let me note here. So when I talk about security aspect here, security in the sense, see, I'm not talking about what are the features we have a security or cross validation, something else. Of course, in application, when we talk about EBS, user level we have a security, responsible level we have security, and through profile options, various levels we can security. Based on the application, we have a security. If you use subledger applications as a MOAC, we have. If you use GL. We have a ledger set, and we have data access set, definition access set, SR, CVR. I'm not going to talk about it. It's all about provisioning. It's all about provisioning to the application related functionality. That's what I'm going to talk about. I'm not talking more about data which will be where we'll be performing the transaction, and where they'll be setting the security. That kind of security, it's applicable for from each and every application respectively, but commonly, like for any application, what kind of security model will work for the users when they are trying to access the application. That point I'm going to talk about it. Okay, first we'll discuss about EBS. In case of EBS, how the security model we have, okay, how those things will be working. We'll talk about it. Then we'll get into the Fusion, and we'll do we'll compare these two, and we'll try to understand the actual point, which we should understand before we getting into Fusion applications. See, when you talk about security, if any user need access to anything in the sense, any application or any specific feature, or any some set of features or functions, what we have to do is we have to create the responsibility. So with the concept called as responsibility, only user can have access to particular application or selected features or specific functions or anything. So if you are creating responsibility, primarily we have to select the menu. Okay, we'll be selecting the menu. We can select the menu into responsibility. If not menu, we can select the sub menu, or else by creating some sub menu or menu, you may grant the access to the user for a particular function. So user need access to only one function. In that case, yes, you can create the custom menu by including one function. Okay, then user will be able to access to only that. Done. So here, these will provision the user to have a access to certain forms, set of the forms or features or application related process flows, etc. So this is how that the product functionality is organized. Menus, through menus or sub menus or functions, we can give the access. Okay, done. Say we have menus, we have sub menus, we have functions. Finally, what we have to do? We have a one user where the user require access to work on accounts payables application. Okay, user require access to work on accounts payables or else a general ledger application. So in EBS, what we do directly, we cannot allow any user to work on any one of the application or submenu or any application. So only the option is, so we have to create the responsibility, right? We'll create the responsibility. Say user need access to uh, AP responsibility, accounts payables responsibility, or else this can be purchasing responsibility or HR responsibility, whatever. User need access to say AP responsibility. In that case, we'll create AP responsibility depending on the user role in the organization. Will be selecting the menu or submenu or functions, okay, into responsibility. Then after selecting the responsibility, okay, just we'll create responsibility so that through responsibility user can have access to this. When user is entering the transactions, if user has to enter the transactions, right, user has to perform some activities. When we are performing some activities in any application, definitely the activity should related to particular, if it is subledger application, particular operating in it, and if it is going to be just GL, and they have to take the information from GL to capture the any transaction. It's all about to enter the date and description and amounts or currency specification. That I mean to say, like, we have to assign, right? We'll create responsibility by selecting menu or submenu or function. After that, we'll assign if it is just GL related responsibility, okay, we may assign only primary ledger. It is related to subledger application, we'll assign primary ledger and operating unit to responsibility. Here, let me take simple example: AP or HR or PO, anything, any application. Okay, PO. Okay, we'll create responsibility and we'll be assigning. Okay, we'll be assigning these data components. Okay, primarily, I mean, data sets which will refer specific data to be captured. We'll assign to that. Okay, done. After that, what we'll do is we'll assign responsibility to user. Of course, we'll create user. Okay, first we'll create user and then we'll assign. If existing user, will be assigning. So assign responsibility to user. So that's how we are provisioning. That's how we are granting some permissions to any user to access the application. If any user need access to system administrator, say some manager need access to system administrator, in that case, we no need to assign any primary ledger or operating units. Okay, it's not to perform any business transactions, just for configuration. In that case, you no need to create responsibility also. Already there will be seeded responsibility. Even if you want to create, you can create it, but you no need to assign anything to that responsibility to perform any business transaction. There are two cases when you can have responsibility without assigning this primary ledgers, operating it, or some other objects, enterprise units. Okay, one you can have in that way. Other way is these should be assigned, otherwise you cannot do any transaction related activity with the help of responsibility. Two cases we have. Generally we see when we are working as a consultant, we'll be using system administrator only, which we use for setup purpose. That is one case. The most of all the cases, we'll see all the cases where we'll have responsibility, we'll be mapping something to responsibility to record the transactions respectively from the particular responsibility, which will assign to the user finally, so that user can have access and they can record the transaction. This is how it happens. Okay, this is all about how the security can be handled in EBS case. Okay, and now we'll talk about how the security, the same concept how we are doing in EBS. If you want to do in the fusion, the same, how we can do that, we'll see this. We'll talk about it now. So what are the security we have in the fusion, basically, that we call as role based access control. Okay, role based access control, in short we call as RBAC, role based access control. Okay, role-based access control we have here. What is all about it? Role-based access control means to manage all these, okay, responsibilities or responsible assignment to user and menus, submenus, functions. Okay, what we have in the Fusion. When we talk about role-based access control, the first thing we have to talk about how many type of roles we have. Basically, we have four type of roles. We have some other roles also, but we don't need to focus on that to understand when we are working as a functional consultant. That purely technical point of view, they named as enterprise roles, etc. That's not required for us, but which we have to understand when we are working as a functional consultant. Let's take into that discussion. Fine. We have four type of roles in Fusion applications. Okay, those four type of roles are, say, job roles and say duty roles, data roles, abstract roles. Okay, job roles, duty roles, data roles, and abstract roles. When we look into this, we'll have a menus from Oracle, we'll have a submenus also from Oracle only, we'll have functions also from Oracle only. So these all are seeded. Okay, these all are seeded. We'll create response as per our requirement, and this is and all everything will be done by us. These are the seeded. The same way, when you talk about these roles, these job roles are seeded. Duty roles also seeded. Abstract roles also seeded. These are these data roles can be generated automatically. Auto generated or manual creation can be possible. Okay, so we have basically four type of roles: job roles, duty roles, data roles, and abstract roles. When you talk about, okay, whether these can create or these will be coming by default along with the product. So job roles are seeded and duty roles also seeded and abstract roles also seeded. If at all if you want to create, you can create the data roles. How data roles you can be created? A data role can be created against job role or duty role. Simple point. Okay, these three are seeded. Say for example, I want to use the job role. If I want to use the job role, I should create the data role for that. Or else say I want to use the duty role. For that I should create the data role. So that's how it works. First, let's try to understand what is the job role, duty role, data role, abstract role, how these we can compare with these menus or submenus functions. The data job role example is, say, I'll say payables manager, okay, or purchasing manager, or payroll manager. Okay. Example for job role is, it can be payables manager or purchasing manager or payroll manager. Just I'm taking as a just role name as a manager. It can be anything. It can be specialist or analyst or a supervisor. It can be anything. Okay, that means in EBS when you talk about menu, for each application we have some seeded menus from Oracle. If you take example for payables, we have AP Navigate GUI. Okay, if you take receivables, here Navigate GUI. In case of AP Navigate GUI 1 2. In the same way, like for each and every applications we have a menus. Okay, here if I take example for payables, we have a menu called as, for payables, to access payables related functionality or features. Okay, we have a menu called as AP Navigate, sorry, GUI12. Okay, I'm sorry, here we don't have any power, so I'm not able to find the keyboard properly. Okay, fine. So menu. Okay, when I talk about menu, okay, no power, but from inverter I'm getting this charging and all. No light here. I mean to say that. Okay, fine. So menu. When you talk about menu, we have this AP Navigate GUI 1.2. Okay, equal to this kind of menu, equal to the menu in Fusion, we have job role. So EBS menu is equal to Fusion job role. EBS menu is equal to Fusion job role. That is a simple statement here. Okay, EBS. In EBS, what are the menu we have? The menu concept, how you can see in the Fusion means with the concept called a job role. Done. Now, if you talk about submenu, like when you talk about AP Navigate GUI, this will have a privilege for entire payables application, including setups, okay, including setups as well as process related functions we can see within that. Okay, in Fusion it's a little bit different. I'll talk about it, whether both will have or only one we have. Okay, okay, or else let me talk about here only. See, when you talk about EBS menu, AP Navigate GUI, what happens is here this menu consists of configuration. You can do the configuration with this menu, and you can have a transactions. You can record the transactions also. Okay, in EBS menu will consist of configuration related tasks as well as transactions. You can perform, you can create invoice, and you can make the payments and all with the payables menu. But in the Fusion, if you are going to have access to payables manager or purchasing manager or payroll manager, okay, which is equal to EBS menu, there you cannot have access to configuration. In EBS, in Fusion, the job role will allow you to work on the transaction process only. Okay, here the job role. Fine, let me take here. Okay, here this is a point, and when you talk about job role, job role will give the access to users to perform the transactions. Again, here different type of job roles also we have that we talk about it. Okay, job role, different job role, that admin related job role, user related job roles and all. Okay, yeah. So it will give the access to just transactions. Say for example, I'm going to assign one job role called as, we have a job role for payables called as payables manager in the Fusion. If I'm going to assign this to the user can perform the transactions, but to perform the transaction we have to map the primary ledger and the operating units. In case of Fusion we call as BUs, we discussed operating unit we call as BU. That means we have to, if anybody is going to work on payables, okay, we'll assign the job role. Along with that we have to assign the primary ledger and business unit also. Then only within that environment they will be able to record the transactions, right? Fine, that is a simple point. And in EBS we have a concept called as menu, right? We have a concept called as menu. So just simple example I'll take. Menu is AP payments or invoices. Okay, AP payments. So through these payments, what you can do is you can do the configuration related to payments, and you can perform the transactions. Equal to menu, in Fusion we have a duty role. Okay, equal to menu, just here we have a duty role. Through duty role, what you can do, just you can record the transactions with respect to that duty. You cannot do the configuration.
If
Okay.
payment is submenu, right?
Sorry. Yeah, submenu. I'm sorry. I just missed out. Submenu. That's what I discussed, but I written this way. Fine. Submenu. Okay. The submenu. In EBS, whatever you see submenu, okay, the same you see in the Fusion as a duty role. Okay, by using the submenu, the relevant area related configuration you can do, and you can do the transaction process also. But in Fusion, if you have a duty role, you can perform majorly transactions. Done. And in EBS, say you have access to menu or submenu. If you want to record the transactions, what you have to do is you have to create responsibility. So we should have a responsibility. Definitely as a part of responsibility, we'll have a menu or submenu. Okay. If you have just this, you cannot do anything. For this, what we have to do is you have to assign, if it is a payables related responsibility, you have to assign primary ledger and operating unit. Okay, this combination, the responsibility which have access to menu or submenu, and the mapping primary ledger or operating unit, with this combination you can record the transaction. So you can start using the responsibility. If you don't assign primary ledger or operating unit to your payables responsibility, you cannot use it. You may have access, but it cannot be used for any purpose. So the same concept, the responsibility will give the access to menu or submenu, and through the menu or submenu to record the transactions, we are assigning the primary ledger or operating unit to responsibility. Why we are assigning the primary ledger or operating unit to responsibility? Okay, anyone can answer this. This is not a great question. Just I want to hear from you. Why we are assigning the primary ledger and operating unit to responsibility? Why we are not assigning to menu or submenu? Anyone?
I think menu submenu allows you to do the configuration and transaction, but for what you are going to do is decided by the profile options what you set up through ledger and operating unit.
Yeah, correct. My question is why we are not assigning primary ledger and operating unit to menu or submenu? It's a funny answer. Simple. Okay, let me answer. Yeah.
But the rest, basically responsibility is you are going to create as per your business requirement. It can be inquiry responsibility or it can be set of responsibility.
Yeah.
So based upon that you can assign them.
Yeah, and yes, correct. That is the point. And one more point is we'll be grouping some data group specification and a request group also into that. That is the reason we need responsibility. But if some user require access directly to some menu and all, in EPS it's not possible, right? Directly you cannot map primary ledger or operating unit to menu to access to particular menu or submenu. That has to be done through responsibility only, because there is no provision, there is no option to do it. Okay, even the reason also, we have a clear reason in EBS, because every responsible should refer the data group where the menu or submenu related transaction data should be stored in which database, and what kind of reporting can be performed by that responsibility user. That also need to be specified. That is another reason why Oracle given in that way. And just when you talk about it, possibility we don't have. Primary ledger or operating unit, you cannot assign to directly menu or submenu in EBS. That has to be done through responsibility. But that provision we got in Fusion. Fusion, what happens is, so in EBS, we cannot assign primary ledger or operating unit to menu or submenu, but that can be possible in Fusion. In Fusion, menu what we call job role. Okay, menu we call as job role. That means we can assign your primary ledger and or, okay, say like I'm taking reference of AP, so I can take and here because both are required for that. Here in Fusion operating it we are calling as business unit. So directly you can map your primary ledger and business unit to particular job role. Okay, job role is nothing but menu or sub menu. Okay, menu. Even here you can map your primary ledger or business unit directly to the sub menu also. For menu or sub menu directly you can map. This is possible. Okay, so here the combination, I mean combination like menu and primary ledger and operating units or submenu and primary ledger or operating, this combination generally we are calling responsibility. With the help of responsibility you can record the transactions or you can do the config. That's what we do in Artwell. But when you talk about Fusion, with the combination of job role, primary ledger and business unit, or else with the combination of duty role, okay, duty role which is equal to submenu, duty role and primary ledger and business unit, you can record the transaction in the subledger application. If you talk about just GL, with the combination of job role and primary ledger, or with the combination of duty role and primary ledger, we can record the transactions in the Fusion application. Okay, this set of combination, okay, we call as simply data role. This is the meaning of data role. Okay, when you say data role, we'll have a job role or duty role, but job or duty role will be mapped with the some set of data. It can be uh, primary ledger related data or VU. It's data in the sense with that objects will be recording the respective data, right? That's what I'm referring. So data role is equal to, as per our EBS, responsibility, where responsibility has a menu and primary ledger only assigned to responsibility, or primary ledger and OU also assigned to responsibility. That combination in Fusion you can see as a data role. Okay, so that is the point, and we discussed about data role. Here data roles can be auto generated or manually also we can create as per our requirement. As per standard process, manually it will be created to give variety of privileges depending on your business requirement. What are the features we have within the application, accordingly you can create it. So that is the meaning of data role. Okay, so job role means just it's all about equal to menu, duty role is equal to sub menu, and data role is equal to your responsibility, which got where we assign primary ledger and operating unit, and already responsibility within that will have a menu or sub menu or some customized functions within that. That is the meaning of data role. And the other point here is in EPS Fusion we discussed other role called as abstract role, that is also seeded. It's very simple. If you are working on application, if you want to handle the approvals, fine, in EBS, if you want to handle some approvals, okay, and if you want to perform certain transactions, you may not approve it, but you will be working on certain transaction. In those scenarios, okay, uh, uh, in those scenarios definitely we need we have to act. Let me take simple example, approvals. The system to handle the approvals, definitely the user should be mapped with the employee, right? When you map with the employee, okay, then for that employee you may follow any approvals. It can be job based, position based, or employee supervisor, or some other customized custom based assignments you may have, whatever it may be. In the system environment, if any user is working based on this, in case of approval, system will identify who's this employee. The employee it will be referring always. In such kind of processes, definitely the every user need to be identified as employee. So simple practice in the organization, when some client is using the application, every user is identified with the employee, where will map the employee with the user. It's a mandatory, we have to map to easily to track and to do the respective business activities. Okay, for that reason, so in case of approvals and other aspects, every user should be mapped with the employee association with that concept. Okay, here the same concept here in Fusion they given as abstract role. Abstract role is equal to, is nothing but employee. Okay, so which is very generic role. It's very generic and which is very common role. It's not specific. When you talk about job or duty or data roles, it always very specific. It can be payables related job role or receivables or purchasing or payroll or HR. In the same way, duty role or data roles also will refer. Those will be specific to particular application. But you work on any application, if there is some relevance of approvals or any kind of user performed actions where system has to understand and identify their actions who are doing and all to come up with some controls majorly in the HCM area and even purchasing approvals and payables, GL, any other area. Okay, so wherever employee role plays major role as a part of application and business process, in all the cases we have to use the role called as abstract role. The abstract role is nothing but employee we call as abstract role. Employee role, employee falls under abstract roles. Here, abstract role. Other role is abstract roles. Here, employee. When you say employee, it can be just a permanent employee or contract contingent workers. It can be employee or contingent workers. Those falls under abstract role. If you assign this abstract role, then only you can perform certain activities that I'll be discussing in the sessions. That's what. This is how we have basically four type of roles in the fusion applications. So everything which will be managing, I mean the security in terms of giving the privileges or anything you can manage with these four roles only. Simple point I'll tell you, abstract role why it is required. Say like if you are working in EBS, you'll directly navigate. If you have access to any responsibility, okay, you have access to any responsibility. Simply you can, you say you have access to payables responsibility, and you can go to SRS window. You can submit any program or you can submit any report, because since you have access to responsibility, you can do it. But similar to that in Fusion, okay, similar to the responsibility concept, in Fusion what we have, data role. Okay, data role. So even you have a data role, when you have access to responsibility, you can go and submit reports or programs in EBS. Equal to that, in Fusion we have data role. But if you have access to data role, and if any user has access to data role in the Fusion application, that user cannot perform any submitting the reports or running the request until unless you assign the abstract role to that user. Nothing but employee role you have to assign that to that user, so that system will identify, okay, that this user is acting as an employee. Okay, whether again that point also we discuss where we can create that kind of employee association with the user and all we'll discuss, but that is the purpose. Okay, if you want to run any reports and all, basically this abstract role, nothing but employee role should be assigned to the user. Okay, here the example just simply I'm taking as a employee. And finally, there is no concept called as responsibility in the Fusion applications. You don't see anything responsibility. This part will be ignoring this kind of logic only will be working here with the concept called as data role. Data role is nothing but job role plus primary ledger or job role plus primary ledger and BU in case of subledger applications. So this is what we have to understand here. Okay, and when system we discussed, okay, job roles are seeded, duty roles are seeded, and data roles are auto generated or manually created, abstract roles also seeded. So if at all you want to create your custom job roles by grouping the different duty roles, or if you want to create some custom duty roles, you can create. However, we can create the custom menus or sub menus within the EBS, right? In EBS, by using the system administrator responsibility as per business requirement for which functions or features user require access, we can create the custom menus or sub menus. Even we can create the custom functions also, right? But already we discussed in the yesterday session in which option, okay, in the cloud, if you opt SaaS or PaaS or IaaS, okay, depending on that there will be uh, restrictions or permissions to create the your custom functions, means some forms here. That's all. So that's what we have to understand here. So these custom job roles and duty roles we can create. Anyway, data roles already discussed, system will create, or else manually you can create. That means we can create the custom data roles, but generally the custom data roles also system will create. When system will abstract roles, anyway, we have like employee or contingent worker, we call as a abstract roles, those are fixed. And data roles, system will create the data roles. When system will create the data roles, simple point here. Say for example, I have a one job role called as payables manager. Payables manager. So system knows very well. Okay, the product knows because they built in such a way where it can identify and they did programming accordingly. So when we have a payables manager role, system definitely knows this payables manager role is related to accounts payables application. And in terms of mapping, this will be working as per our enterprise structure or operating unit. So BU or OU level, right? The payables will work at OU level. OU level it is working means this has to be mapped with the particular OU. So what happens is when you have this seeded role, seeded job role in the product, whenever you create the business unit, in 11A operating unit we are calling in Fusion as business unit. Say I am going to create one business unit called as ERP tree business unit. I'll create, however you create the operating unit in EBS in the same way as a consultant will go and create the ERP tree business unit. Once you create this business unit, automatically what system will do is as a one definition we have a job role, and now we are creating the ERP tree business unit. Then the business unit can be used for payables manager. Okay, definitely they're required. So because this business unit can be mapped to payables, this payables manager job role is for payables only. Then automatically what system will do is system will create the data like payables manager ERP tree business unit. That's it. Automatically this combination system will create this, only we are calling as data role. Now what we'll do is this will assign to the user. Okay, this will assign to the user. In EBS generally if you have a something like payables manager responsibility, and if you are going to assign just operating unit, that is not enough. You have to just assign the primary ledger also, right? Here what they did is when we are going to there is a separate task called as business unit business functions. When you are setting up, you will be directly assigning the primary ledger to business unit. That business unit if you assign to any responsibility, automatically that will be provisioned. That means okay, those two we are assigning. When you see in the system you can see only BU is assigned, business unit is assigned, but along with the BU primary ledger also will be assigned. Before we assign this to this before we assign the business unit to payables manager through manual or automatically, will assign the primary ledger and anyway legal entity will assign to primary ledger will assign to business unit. The business unit, once you map with the primary ledger with all these privileges and controls, then user will be able to record the transaction. Then this is how it works. Okay, or else you have a requirement. Okay, you have a requirement, you have a payables manager. The payables manager role required access to 3 or 4 business units. In that case, however you create the security profile in EBS, in the same way you can create the data role here. Okay, profile will be creating in EBS to access multiple from responsibility. Since here we don't have responsibility, everything works through roles. To access multiple BUs from specific role, will create the security profile. The security profile will be mapping. For the security profile, will create the data role. Okay, by mapping the job role plus list of business units, that only we call as again data role. That means data roles can be created through manual process. One is manual process means it's like similar to security profile concept, and another way generally system will be creating based on whenever you create the relevant definition in the system which is related to particular existing job role seeded role. And if I take simple example GL, say for example for GL we have a role called as, we have multiple roles, we'll talk about and we'll see and we'll discuss. Yeah, all the roles will be maintained in the role templates. If I take example accounts payables, say accounts sorry general ledger. Say I have a role called as uh, general accountant. For example, say I have this role, general accountant. This role I have. So system knows because they did the programming, and what they did is this general accountant role they'll be maintaining as a part of GL related role template. When this is part of GL related role template, system easily can understand, okay, this role is related to GL. If at all any user want to access to GL to record the transactions, what we have to do is, okay, we have to, in EBS case, we have to assign minimum primary ledger so that user can start working. But here, what in case of GL, I discussed about payables. When I create business unit, it will assign the business unit to payables manager. If you have a receivables manager, it will assign the same business unit to receivables manager. If you have a like purchasing manager, it will assign to purchasing manager. If you have a costing manager, it will assign to costing manager. Reason is this business unit, okay, will be, okay, in the business unit level, these payables, receivables, purchasing, order management, and costing or billing application all will be mapped as per enterprise structure or multi-org. So that is the reason when you create the business unit, those will be mapped with the relevant application related roles automatically. Now say for example we have one role for general ledger application. I am creating the primary ledger. I'll create ERP3 primary ledger. When you create the ERP3 primary ledger, so for general ledger, we have a list of roles within the role template. Whenever we create it, automatically this primary ledger will be mapped with general ledger, general accountant. That means then finally system will create general accountant. Okay, general accountant, ERP3 primary ledger. This is how your system will create. Simply this, if any user need access to general accountant related roles, access relevant row access, simply this you can assign to user. This you can assign to the user so that that user will be able to access to general accountant and along with this primary ledger access. That's it. Okay, that's how the roles concept will work. But only the point here you have to understand, if I assign AP navigate GUI role to any responsibility in EBS, you can perform the configuration and do transactions. But similar role, say payables manager, if I just assign to any user, that user can perform only transactions. That too, if it is going to be as just job role, no. If that is converted as a data role, then only the user will be able to perform the transactions. Setups and all they given separate area, that also we'll talk about it, we have as a part of today discussion. Okay, this is all about security. If you want to understand about how things works with respect to security in Fusion applications, of course in EBS also we have this concept, some role based access control, okay, which we can set, but that is limited to very few features and few areas. But in the Fusion everything works based on this RBAC, role based access control. Okay, that's what we have to understand. Any questions please? I have one question here in chat window, let me go through it. Do you have option to create the BU with restricted financial modules, or BU means all the modules? See, you can create. So in EBS what we do is we'll create the operating unit. Okay, see, I'm just talking about by referring your point only. See here, do we have option to create BU with restricted financial modules? This option we don't have in EBS also, right? First point, we just create the BU. Sorry, we create, when you talk about EBS, we'll create the operating unit. Okay, operating unit. When you create operating unit, that operating unit you want to map with which applications. Accordingly, you'll create how many applications you require, how many applications you want to, how many applications are going to work for the particular BU. Means, I mean, how many applications are required for a particular operating unit. Accordingly, you'll create the responsibilities separately. Then, for those responsibilities, we'll be assigning the same BU. That means you are not restricting nothing. As per your requirement you are creating. In Fusion also same way. Here simply will create the response. Here simply will create the business unit. After creating the business unit, okay, in EBS case we'll be creating response. Here you want to create responsibility. What we can do is, if the BU is going to perform invoice and payment related functions. Simply those activities, simply those processes we call as functions. If any BU is going to perform invoicing and payment related functions, we'll go to that BU with the concept called as business unit business functions will be enabling, so that that BU will perform, the BU will be granted to perform payables related transactions. Before that, if you enable that BU business unit related business functions for the particular BU for invoicing and payment, then only first of all you can do the setups for that BU related to payables, and automatically it will be allowed you to record the transaction. Say I have one BU, the BU doesn't perform any procurement related functions. In that case, I no need to go and enable business unit business functions for that BU related to procurement. That's it. Just you have to enable based on whatever you are choosing. Accordingly, system will create the data roles with respective BUs. That's all. Okay, here, so as per your requirement you can create. By default, system is not going to give the privilege for any BU for all the modules, financial modules or any other BU or OU specific modules. So you will have your own option to choose it. Done. Any other questions? Any other questions about the security? Okay, I got two questions here. So Karthik, so BU with restricted to functions will done with configuring BU. Yes, exactly. So when we create the business unit, that is a one task. We have separate tasks to enable functions, which function this business unit can perform. Based on what functions you are assigning to that business unit, you can do the setups for that BU and you can have a transactions. That's it. That is a one question from Karthik. From Guru, we have another question. Whether KFF and DFF exist in Fusion? Yes, those are there. Those should be there. Yes, we have. Okay, we have that. We have that. But when you, since we are talking about this point, in KFF, when you say KFF, yes, in Fusion we have almost finance. In finance we have almost same. But when you talk about HCM and other areas, drastically they reduce the usage of KFFs. They are the KFF functionality. Let's say in HCM, they are giving as a forms, the form based. Within the form you can create the DFF functionality, DFF related values, sorry, KFF related values. It's not there as a KFF. They minimize it. See in HCM, in Fusion, when you talk about EBS, I think around we have 7 KFFs, but in Fusion you can see only 2. The rest of all you can manage with the web based, some you can define within the forms, form in the sense here web pages functions. DFFs also, yes, we have here. Yep. Any other questions? Okay, Karthik. Do we have any job role in Fusion which acts as a sysadmin in R12? Yes, we have. That should be there. We have. We'll talk about it. That's what I referred over there. Like when you say I referred, like we'll have a job role, and the job role. Few cases for job role will assign the primary ledger and menu. For menu, we can assign primary ledger and operating units in EBS. But if you take system administrator, in system administrator case, we don't assign anything to that. That will use for configuration. The same way in the Fusion also, to do the configuration, okay, we need some role. That role we have. We'll discuss. We'll talk about it before when we talk about kind of next whatever we have as a schedule for today. We'll do that. Any other questions?
One more question from you, Lakshman. This Karthik here.
Please.
When you're saying, you quoted one example like payables manager ERP tree business unit. So that is the data role you are going to assign to the user.
Yeah, payables manager, ERP tree, business unit. This combination, the job.
Yeah, because okay, the combination thing, but that is a name of data role, right?
Yeah, name of
Automatically
data.
created.
Automatically. What, see, the job role you have with the name called as payables manager. This is the name which you are creating with these two. With these two names, it will create the data role like this. That's it. You'll see
Yeah.
as
So
is.
because the payables and receivables, yeah, payables, receivables, everything is at operating in BU level, so we
Oh,
are getting that combination.
exactly. Because
So it is,
which roles are related to
yeah.
OU specific applications. For all those roles, when you create BU, it will get assigned. It will create automatically.
If it is GL and FA both are like ledger level, so we are going to get
No.
data or created automatically.
No, yeah, good question here. So when you talk about GL will be yes working at ledger level. When you create ledger will be mapped with the GL related job roles. So that will become GL related data roles, right? So when you talk about FA, yes, your statement I'll agree with you if you said it's a ledger level FA, but the transactions which will be doing, yes, when you talk about multi-org enterprise structure, mapping wise it's GL level, ledger level, but practically the transactions which you usually will be recording books level. So whenever you will have a roles for FA, and whenever you create the corporate book or tax book, those corporate books and books will be mapped with the job roles. That combination we call as data role. There, when the book is mapped, in the book level will be selecting the primary ledger. That's how the thing will work. The mapping will work. Okay. So that means in GL, FA case, we are not mapping directly primary ledger. It's not system is not mapping. The mapping will happen through corp or tax book. Within corp or tax book, anyway, will be when you are creating the corporate tax book, we'll be selecting the primary ledger. That's how the logic will work. Okay, done. Any other question? Fine. Any question?
I, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
please.
One more question again from me. So
Yeah, please.
it could be silly. So
No
basically,
problem.
you are saying,
Please ask silly questions. We're
yeah,
happy to
yeah,
discuss any question. No issues because we're talking about something which we want to understand detail level. Think you when you are asking this question, it is useful for many people.
yeah.
Yep.
So when you are assigning a BU to the job role, so data role will be created automatically. If in the case, if you, like in our tool, we have security profile as you said, and if you want to assign a combination of profile which can have multiple access to multiple BUs, then how could be the what could be the data role?
See, the data role also manual will be giving the name. Manual will be giving the name. Say, I'll just name it. Simple point. Let's talk about it. No, not an issue because all are EBS experts. It will be very useful for everyone. So I have a BU1 and I have a BU2 and I have a payables manager. Okay, this is a case existed. Now the requirement is this payables manager need access to these two BOs. In that case, what I'll do is first I'll create the security profile. Here generally we call as organization security profile in the Fusion. Of course, in EBS also is organization only, but just they named it as security and the global security. But here to facilitate to give the future of security profile or global security profile whatever we have in the Fusion, for both we can use the same organization security profile. I'll create the security profile. Within that I'll take the organization classification as a business unit. I'll be selecting, okay, while I'm creating the organization security profile, I'll be selecting the BU1 and BU2. I'll select it. Done. Now what I'll do is I'll create the data role. Data role we are creating means we can give our own name, right? I'll say data role name as payables manager to be use access. I can name like this, or else I can write some other name. Okay, I'll give the data role title in this. In this, what I'll do is I will select payables manager. Okay, payables manager data role. Seems to there is some network issue. 1 second. Okay, sorry, seems to there is some network issue. I stopped there itself. Okay, so we are talking about, okay, payables manager. So since I want to give access to this 2 BUs for payables manager, here when I'm creating the data role, I'll select the payables manager and I will assign.
Sir, can you repeat?
Yeah, I'm coming to that point.
Yeah.
See, we have it two. Please mute yourself. Okay, thanks. Okay, we have 2 BUs, BU1, BU2, and we have a manager called as payables manager. So for payables manager, I want to give access to BU1 and 2. Okay, so in that case, I'll create the organization security profile. While I'm creating, I'll be grouping these 2 BUs, BU1 and BU2. However, we'll be grouping in the EBS by creating the security or global security profiles. And then I'll create the data role. When I'm creating data role, a name I'll be giving as a payables manager 2 BUs access. Done. Within the data role definition, manual data role definition, I'll select the payables manager and 2 BUs where we have Karthik or somebody who asked this question. I'm asking this question.
A security profile level.
Yes, that security profile I will assign to this. Now I'll go and assign this payables manager 2 BUs access data role to user. That user will have access to this. Within this, we have this kind of mapping so that as a payables manager, that user will be able to access to 2 BUs which are in this organization security profile. That's all. Okay. So name how we'll be giving means however we want will be giving. We will have a own preference to give it, but basically what purpose we are creating, how things work, accordingly we'll give them. That's all. Any other questions? Okay, done. No more questions. Seems to fine. If no question, we can just jump into other concept. So users. Okay, we'll talk about users in EBS. Fine. So when we talk about users concept, we know very well how the users can be managed in the EBS environment. What we do, the general concept in EBS is uh, in system administrator, we can go and create the user and we'll assign the responsibilities and we'll be creating the employee. The employee will be assigning to the user, right? That's how we'll do the mapping and any kind of user creational roles assignment or custom roles creation or based on custom roles creation, responsibility creation, everything we can do from the system administrator, right? But in the fusion, okay, simply here we are not in EBS case, we are not classifying the users, we are not classifying the users, we are not creating the users from the different applications, different source of applications. So but when you talk about fusion, okay, 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 sometime it's getting some network issue, the that voice is getting disconnected, at the same time not talking anything, I'm talking from my side. Okay, fine, done. So now let's talk about users in fusion applications. At the same time we'll talk about EBS versus fusion in terms of user creation or rest of things related to user. Okay, in EBS what we'll do is we'll create user, say simple point, we have a system administrator. In system administrator we can create user. Okay, we'll create user from system administrator and we'll create employee from HRMS. Then general, we'll assign employee to user. At the same time we'll assign responsibility to user. This is a very generic and standard practice we know very well. Seems to have some question from someone. Suresh. Going that way, many disconnections even last for 3 months. Yes, yes, Suresh. Yes, that's happening in Hyderabad. We have many issues with this power and internet because of this rains, etc. Correct. You're right. Fine, done. So this is a process we'll follow in EBS. We have a system administrator responsibility. Through that, you can create the users how many you require. You may whatever the purpose, maybe to give it to the employees, or it may be for the supporting team or implementation team, whatever. You can create the users from the same place. And to map the employees, you have to create the employees from HRMS always. That whatever you created employee in HRMS, that will be just system will be synchronizing with the system administrator. That means that employees will be available in system administrator to assign to the users. Then finally we assign the responsibility to that user, then user can start working on the application. This is how it works. Okay, but the same when you see in the fusion, whatever we did in EBS, the same practice if you want to do in EBS fusion, what points we have to understand before doing these activities. Okay, I'm just going to talk about fusion now here. Let me list name it here. I talked about EBS. I'm sorry for all these additional tasks which I'm doing. Fusion. Okay, when you talk about fusion, within this fusion, the same how that kind of process can be happen. Basically, in the fusion, the users, whatever we create, the users are classified into two types. The users are created into two types. Users are two type users, and users we can create from two different applications. Two type of users we have, and the users can be created from two different applications. First, let's see what are those applications, then we'll talk about what are those users, why we'll create those users from which application. If you create from one application, what is the other, what we can do if you create from other application, what we are discussing as two different, what we cannot do and what we can do, those points we'll talk about it. Okay, so two type of users we have. Those two type of users can be created from two different applications. Now we'll see what are those. The simple point here is, however we create users from users in EBS. In EBS, users will create from system administrator. In the same way, however we are creating users from system administrator, in the same way to create the users in fusion applications, we have IDM. IDM stands for Oracle Identity Manager. The same IDM you can call as OAM also. Already we discussed yesterday this. Oracle Identity Manager. Sorry, here I written Oracle here also. It's just IDM. Identity Manager simply we call, since there is no O over there. IDM stands for Identity Manager. The same IDM you can call as, since this Oracle product, or OAM also, Oracle Identity Manager. Done. So you can create the user from IDM one place. Other place is you can create the user from HCM also. HCM stands for Human Capital Management. Your HR related. In EBS, HRMS, payroll, recruitment, compensation management, recruitment, etc., which are part of HR suite. Those all okay. We have as a with the naming convention as HCM, Human Capital Management. Done. The simple point is here we can create the users from IDM and HCM. These are the two different applications. So there was some query like, I mean, in this session, are we going to refer whatever we are talking about, where we can map in terms of the enterprise? I mean, this architecture. Okay, this fusion architecture, that the query we have. So based on that, I am just going to give the point here. Whatever we discuss now here. Okay, whatever we discussed as these roles. Okay, these roles all fall into middleware only. Okay, this all will fall into middleware. The roles management and everything will be done in the middleware part. Okay, when you talk about these two roles, it is all roles and whatever we discuss, data roles and assignments, and all the data, all the roles will be managed with the respective role templates. These all will roles and role maintenance and template maintenance all will be part of, will be managed in the middleware with the help of applications or tool called as, or components, you may call as components called as IDM and APM. Sorry, again there is internet issue. Okay. 1 second, I just connected from my phone for this internet. Just let me charge my mobile. No charge. 1 second, please. Fine, done. Fine. So that's what we are talking about, the roles, whatever we discussed. Sorry. The roles, whatever we discussed, the roles, whatever it may be, job or duty or data, abstract roles or custom roles definition or roles will maintain in the role template. These all things can be managed at middleware level only. And again in the middleware by using the tools called as IDM, or I mean identity manager or OM, and other tool or component or application is APM, authorization or access policy manager. Will be working on that, so we'll get more understanding. Just I'm referring this point in this stage. Okay, done. So that's all about this point here. Here when we talk about IDM, also IDM, just now we discussed, this is a part of middleware. This is one of the middleware component for security, as a security solution. Now finally we can create the users from IDM and HCM. Okay, which users will create from basically IDM? From IDM you'll create the implementation users. Okay, we'll create the implementation users from IDM. From HCM we'll create the employee users. So simple. Users, or you can name it as business users. Okay, so we can create the users. We have two type of users. The two type of users can be created from two different applications, and those two applications are IDM and HCM. Okay, anyway, IDM is part of middleware. When you talk about HCM, it's a purely application which will be standing the architecture application layer level. And in IDM, which user will be creating out of two users, implementation users, and from HCM you can create employee user or say business users. Okay, so what is the difference? Okay, what is the difference? What we can do when we create the user from IDM, we'll talk about it. See, in IDM just you can create the users, and however in EBS we'll assign the responsibilities. In the same way here we can assign the roles. It can be job roles or duty roles, or I can say like abstract roles or data roles, anything. The four type of roles we can assign to the user in IDM. Compared to this HCM, you can create the user, but you cannot assign any roles. Of course, automation you can set when you create the user from HCM, automatically which roles need to be assigned. That kind of role mapping we can do that. But general practice, in IDM we'll create the users and we can assign the roles. In HCM we'll create the users. There won't be that much provision which allows us to create assign the roles. What is the difference between the users which we create from IDM and to HCM? When you are creating the user, if you create the user from IDM, that user you can use. Okay, you can use in the sense, if any user you create from anywhere, you'll you have to give some permissions. You have to do the role provisioning. If you give the access to role, accordingly the user can work in the application environment. Say for example, I have one user which is created from IDM. I'll give the permissions which are required this IDM user to do the implementation and all. So in that case, IDM user can start working as implementation consultant. The implementation IDM user can do all the configuration. IDM user, I'm referring just based on finance I'm talking here. Just or else let's talk about finance and procurement base. I have one user which is created from IDM. For that IDM user, I given all implementation privileges through roles. The user can work and can do all the implementation related activities. But when that user is trying to perform the, say in finance, supplier side creation, IDM user cannot create the supplier side. The same way that IDM user cannot work on procurement side to do some procurement documents preparation and approvals. The reason is you cannot assign employee to IDM user. You can create IDM user, you can assign the roles based on that user. The user will be working in the application environment to do some setups, and IDM user can perform the transactions, but not all the transactions. There is some limitation. When we talk about finance side, supplier sites you cannot create from the IDM user. Okay, and you cannot perform the procurement related document approvals from IDM user. The reason is, okay, the reason is you cannot assign employee to IDM user. If you don't have employer association with IDM user, you cannot do certain things which should be done by employee. That's it. So that is one point here. And HCM user, HCM, and from HCM you can create the employee user or business users. So if you are creating the HCM from HCM user, simple point, along with the employee creation, you can create the user. HCM user is nothing but, or employee user is nothing but employee definition plus user. That's it. Okay. So I can make employee user as implementation user also. See, it's all about which purpose will be using. I'm talking about who can become implementation user. Okay, who can act as implementation user, for which user we are giving the required roles to act as implementation consultant, we can call them as implementation consultant. Okay, here when we talk about HCM related users, HCM user is nothing but employee and user. If you create user from IDM, you cannot assign employee. If you don't assign employee, you cannot work on certain processes, but you are allowed to do all the configuration and many transaction related activities. But HCM user, no limitation. If you make HCM user as a, if you give permissions to HCM user where HCM user can perform, okay, or employee user can perform all the implementation related activities, then for that user can do all the configuration, they can do all the transactions, no limitations, whatever IDM user has. Okay, that's how it works. That's how it works, because for IDM user we cannot assign the user. For HCM user, when you are creating HCM user or employee user, it's all about employee plus user definition, which we do in the system. So that is the difference we have. Why we have to create the implementation user? This is the question now. Okay, just I'm raising question myself. Okay, why we have to create the implementation user when we cannot, when we have certain limitations? Why don't we go with directly with HCM user? Even we may work as a consultant, but just for the need of user to have all the privileges, why can't we create ourselves as a HCM user when you start with implementation? If that is the question, answer is, if you want to create user from HCM, or I'll say if you want to create employee user or business users, at the time of user creation, you have to associate, or I'll say you have to map legal entity and business unit to employee user. We know very well when we start with implementation, how we can find our business units in the fresh environment? Impossible. So that is the reason we never start creating the employee users whenever we start doing the implementation. We can create the employee users whenever our enterprise configuration is done in the system. When we have our legal entities ready, when we have our business units ready, then only you can create. The reason is when you are creating the employee user or business users, you should map that employee, for every employee, the legal entity and okay, legal entity and business unit. That is the reason when you get into the implementation process, first we'll create IDM user only. When you are creating the IDM user, you no need to assign any business unit or legal entity. So that is the reason, simply just, it's a very simple process. However, we do in EBS, similar way you can create the IDM user. Then you can start doing the implementation, so that you will be able to do all the setups. Once you're done with the setups, you can turn into employee user definition. You may create some dummy employee user creation in the system, since we as a consultants, we are not going to we are not going to act as employees, we are not going to become employees to their client company. So you can create one dummy employee user. With that user, you can just run through all the setups or testing, you can demonstrate, etc., etc., everything you can do it. So this is the reason, like, we have these two different users. The user model related to employee, they given in that way, where every employee should be mapped with a particular legal entity and a business unit. But don't think if you map particular legal entity and business unit, that user will be working only for that business unit. That is not correct. So just as a definition, you have to select any one of the legal entity and business unit. Generally, we don't select any one of legal entity and business unit. The user is working for which BU, that will be selecting. But primarily, the user will have access to the business unit based on the data roles which you are assigned to the user, not to the data role and not to the business unit which you are assigned to that user. Okay, it can be the same BU related data roles we may assign, or else it can be different BU related data roles we may assign to that user. So based on the data roles which we are assigned to the user, accordingly user can perform the transaction in the system. So this is what we have to understand. What happens is, in the system process, you will create the employee, you will create the employee user from HCM application, human capital management. Once you create the employee, automatically that employee user will be synchronized with IDM only. Automatically the user definition will flow into IDM. From IDM only you can set the password, security, etc. Whatever the user you are creating from HCM, just you can give the username. Apart from that, nothing you can do there. Okay, majorly. So primarily you cannot do anything other than you just giving the username. That user will be coming here. What is the difference in system point of view means, that the user which you are creating from HCM, the HCM user will have a employee ID. Means employee definition only, through employee definition only we are creating the user. But if you create the user from IDM, there won't be any employee ID, since we are not creating the IDM user with by mapping the employee. Reason, that provision we don't have, we cannot map at any time employee to any IDM user. So with this user level you can find the employee ID. This user level you cannot find the, within this user you cannot find any employee IDs, uh, the respective HCM related other elements. Okay, that's how it works. Now if you have any questions, you can ask me, we'll discuss on that. Fine, no question. Oh, seems to no question. There should be some question, right? Fine, no question means we'll proceed further. Okay, now let's talk about the same user only. Okay, so in EBS, if you are working as a finance consultant, okay, any consultant, so you will just log into the application as a sysadmin user. Okay, here I got one question. Can an employee restricted with approval kind of contingent worker restricted with an approval kind of? Sorry, Srinivas, I didn't get your question. An employee restricted. I don't have speaker. No, even if you don't have any speaker, directly you can speak, not an issue. I can hear from here. You can unmute yourself and you can speak. If I don't hear anything, let's try with this chart only. Without speaker also you can. Hope your system will receive and it will transfer here. No? Can you elaborate your question? Can an employee restricted with approval? Okay, just contingent worker. Okay, anything. See, it's all about, yes, okay, I got your question. You are asking whether contingent workers can be restricted with approvals or not. Yes, when we are creating the employee, when you are creating the employee, you will be selecting whether the employee is your permanent employer, contingent worker. When you talk about approvals, you can set approvals for specific employees. If you want to restrict for contingent workers, don't define any employer rules. Don't take into these contingent workers into the approval definitions. That's it. Okay, possible. Can if you, even if you ask me, can we restrict employees? Okay, from with approvals kind means yes, that also true. You can define approvals. You can allow the apply these approvals for specific employees only. Possible, yes, we can do that. Any other questions? Any other questions? Yes, we have position hierarchies and everything we have. Same we have, almost same we have. Should be that. We have. Generally, these hierarchies and all in the fusion we call as trees. Trees. That instead of using the term called as hierarchies, they are using the tree, which they taken these terms from this PeopleSoft application. Okay, in every product it can be HCM or finance or something else. If you see the term in the previous versions as a hierarchy, that here named it as a trees. Fine, done. Any other question? I'm ready to answer if you have any questions. Fine. Okay, let's target few more questions after some time. Fine. Now let's talk about more on this. I mean, some additional point on this. Fine. When we are working in EBS, okay, EBS will have a seeded user along with the product called as sysadmin, right? Sysadmin. Username is sysadmin. Password also by default sysadmin. But when we are working on Fusion applications, what is the user? Seeded user will get from Oracle. FA admin. Okay, in EBS case is admin, and here FA admin. Why they are not giving here also sysadmin? Here system administrator. Here also why they are not giving as sysadmin? Why they are giving FA admin? Because the users access also, since they got middleware and application layer separately. So this user, okay, will give the access to FA Fusion applications only. That is the reason they are calling as FA admin. If you need access to like IDM, okay, IDM or APM, okay, with the limited applications which are part of middleware, to have access to this IDM applications, okay, this is for Fusion applications. Let me write here. For Fusion applications, we have user called as FA admin. For middleware tools or applications or components, say for IDM, let me take simple example. IDM, for IDM access, they are giving Excel sys ADM. Okay, Excel sys ADM, Excel sysadmin. This is a user, the seeded user will be getting with along with the product. Okay, if you want to have access to applications only, you can use FA admin, and if you want to have access to only IDM, you can just you can have access to Excel sysadmin. But here there is simple point, one more point to discuss. When we have access to Fusion applications, from Fusion applications you can get the access to IDM also. That means being a Fusion applications user, you can switch to IDM application also. But when we have access to IDM, okay, when we log into that IDM user, there won't be any task to switch to here, but depend okay, that's how it works. Okay, when you have a user like IDM user, see, when I have access to the application as FA admin, I can use some task. By using the task, simply I can switch to IDM without any logins. I don't need to log in. I don't need to go with IDM access what Oracle is providing. So simply we can switch from IDM user. Okay, with IDM user privileges, we can switch to, sorry, with the application. Okay, with the Fusion applications user, whatever we have as a FA admin, with that user privileges, we can switch to IDM also. But IDM user, when you have access to IDM, from IDM user, there is no task which will help you to switch into Fusion applications. So that means, simple point you can understand, when you are working on this application, if you have access to this Fusion application related login, you can work on that. But initially, to grant new user creation privileges to your own user, whatever custom user or new user you create, definitely you require IDM access also. But here, whatever the practice you are going to do will provide you the user with all the privileges so that you can work on in both areas. Okay, this is how we have. Okay, to access the application, these are the two users we have. Only access required for Fusion applications, you can use FA admin, or else only access required for IDM Excel sysadmin. Generally, when you are working, you may get separate links for this, but you can ignore. You can switch from Fusion application to IDM also by using some task. Okay, we have different tasks to switch from here to there, that we'll be discussing once we get into the applications. This is the one point. Okay, done. So this is all about, in EBS we have sysadmin, in Fusion we have these different users. In EBS, if you want to start with implementation, what responsibility you require? In case of EBS, to start with your implementation, you require access to system administrator, right? EBS. Okay, to start work, I mean, if you want to start with your implementation, you need access to system administrator. Then based on the scope of the project, you'll start creating the responsibilities. Once responsibilities are ready, you'll start defining the organization units as a locations. I mean, local, of course, location is will map with a particular unit. We'll start creating the locations. We'll create the business groups. We'll create the primary ledger and legal entities, operating inventory organization. That's all possible once you do the responsibility definition from system administrator. That's how the flow goes on. So in Fusion case, to start with the implementation, what response here in Fusion EBS, we have a concept of responsibility, so we are using the system administrator. But in the Fusion, we don't have any responsibility concept, but there should be something to have access to particular application related functionality that already discussed roles. Here we have a roles. So in Fusion environment, okay, in Fusion applications, okay, if you want to start your implementation process, okay, for your user, okay, here we are talking about in EBS for sysadmin user, minimum this sysadmin role should be assigned by default. That will be finding in the EBS. But in this case, here in a Fusion case, to implement Fusion applications for your user or any user, what roles are required? So if you want to work as implementation consultant, basically we require two roles. Those are application implementation consultant. This is the one role we have to assign to our user. Okay, application implementation consultant role. And the second one is IT security manager. These two roles are enough. You'll get complete privilege, all the rights to act as an implementation consultant in the system environment. As implementation consultant, you can work on the system environment. In case of EBS, yeah, please. I have some question. Somebody is asking.
Yeah, so these two roles are job roles or duty roles?
Simple. These two are job roles. What is the meaning of job role? Job role means, I mean, it's kind of without any assignments, right? Job role means you are not assigning anything. Simple example here. When you take a EBS system administrator, are you assigning something? No. We don't assign any primary ledgers or something else, right? The same way, However, this sysadmin responsible will be having without any primary ledger or operating it or any other object assignment. In the same way, these roles also will be having without assigning any primary ledger or a kind of business unit in EBS. Okay, the roles will call as job roles. The same we discussed just now. So these we call as just job roles only. Okay, that means these two job roles we have to assign. Okay, so on you will be assigning these two job roles so that the user will have a, I mean the consultant will have a access to all the areas wherever the configuration can be done in the Fusion applications. Okay, and that's all. This is a one point we have to understand. Okay, done. Any question here from anyone? That means if you want to start as implementation consultant, you need user with these two roles, then you can start working on the application. Okay, if no question, we can just jump into another concept, whatever you plan. Any question here when you talk about these users and user related roles? And why these roles are required? Two roles. Why two are required? In EBS we have only one. Here, why two are required? Simple point here. If you assign only application implementation consultant role, you will be able to do all the application related configuration. What are the products? What are the applications you have access? What are the applications you have in your instance? For any application, you can start with the configuration. Why this additional role is required? IT security manager. This IT security manager, uh, please, some noise I'm getting. Okay, fine. So this IT security manager role will enable you as a user uh, to create the new users. Okay, to create the new users. If you have access to application implementation consultant, as a user, you can create, you can do all the configuration, the system environment. But if IT security manager is assigned to your user, you will get complete security related privileges also. The simple example I'm saying, the IT security manager, if you have access, it will allow you to create the new users and role assignments and other activities also. IT security manager role gives the access to middleware tools. Yes, the same. Just IT through IT security manager. Okay, through IT security manager, it will give you that access to, you can say, IDM related access you can get where user creation and other objects. Yes, your statement is correct. IT security manager role will give the access to middleware tools. It's a simple understanding is IDM. And not only IDM, for APM also, access policy manager. It's something like some technical. Again, there are some limitations, restrictions. It's not complete IDM, sorry, middleware, all components, very basic components like APM and this and some other job scheduling, etc., can be done if through your user, if this IT security manager role is assigned to your user. That's it. Okay. So that's all about what you should understand before you get into the application about the users and what minimum roles need to be assigned. Okay. If any questions, please we'll discuss. Otherwise, we can just move to the next concept. No questions from anyone? Fine. Okay, done. I don't see any questions from anyone. So now the next concept is configuration. Okay, let's talk about this point here. System configuration. I'm referring here. Okay, system configuration. First, let's talk about, before we move to this Fusion application configuration, let's talk about the well-known area of EBS configuration. Say, for example, if you are going to implement finance and SCM or projects, whatever, what process we have to follow. First, we have to create the responsibilities, right? We have to create the responsibilities, then we'll do all the setups. Okay, basic setup definitions will do, multi-org definition will do. Then you can start doing the setups. When you assign the roles to the user, okay, so that user in EBS, okay, if I create the payables responsibility or receivables responsibility, there I can see that functions which will support to do the system configuration. At the same time, I can see the transaction based functions also, where I can record invoices, I can make the payments, I can create the suppliers, I can create some transaction related or some master data related definitions I can see over there. Everything we can see. Setups we can do through responsibility, and we can do the transaction related activities with the same responsibility. But in Fusion, that they completely separated. If you want to do the configuration, we have separate roles, and to work on the application related transaction process, you have separate roles. Okay, so whatever the data roles we are discussing, the data roles always will give the provision. Data roles always will allow you to work on the transaction process. And job roles, every job role won't allow you to do the some setups and all. Okay, job roles you'll be mapping the primary ledger or business unit, then that will become data role. To convert as a data role, will be having the most of job roles, but there will be some job roles always it will remain as a job roles. The best examples these two. You cannot map anything to this application implementation consultant IT security manager. However, we never map any primary ledger or operating it to our system administrator responsibility. So job roles will be converted as a data roles, but not all job roles. If you want to work as a implementation consultant, if you want to do the system configuration, basically these two job roles we have to assign, but these two job roles cannot be turned into data roles. Okay, that is a point here we have. Okay, so that means in EBS, if you have any responsibility, that will have a provision where you can do the setups as well as you can work on the system, because the combination of configuration and transaction process related functions they are giving in the single menu in EBS. But of course, as per your requirement, you may go and create separate responsibility which give the access only for setups, and which responsibility will give access to only transaction process. Accordingly, you can define your custom menus, one menu for setups, another menu for transaction process. Accordingly, you can create responsibilities, and those responses you can give to the respective users will be working on the configuration, will be doing on the transaction process. That you can do if required as per a requirement, but here by default we have in the Fusion. So in EBS, we'll do the EBS. When you talk about EBS configuration, within the responsibility will be having the both. But in the Fusion, okay, if you want to, and again one more point here is a simple point to which we do. Say for example, you have access to payables super user or payables manager responsibility, and the receivables manager or super user responsibility. In that case, you are doing the implementation. You have to implement 10 applications. In that case, what you can do is always switching. Okay, we'll switch from one to other responsibility. That's how you can do. But we have one bad practice which we can do also. We may create some combo response, a combo menu that you can assign to one user. That nobody will do that. No, it's not correct thing to do it. Forget about that. Okay, so that means if you are doing the configuration, you have to switch from one to other depending on the setups or process which you are following to do the setups in the system environment. Okay, so that's how too much switching we have to do. Again, in the same environment, we'll have access to both configuration as well as irrelevant functions which talks about setups of transactions. When you are working as a consultant, initially we don't require that section also. It may require later stage, but we'll have access. So that's how we have in EBS. But when you talk about Fusion applications, in the Fusion applications, if you assign this basically this role, first role, that will give you the access, that it will give you the access only for the area which will allow you to do the configuration for any applications. No switching, one place, centralized place, you can do the setups. I'll refer simple concept, similar concept from EBS. In EBS, we have a concept called as accounting setup manager, ASM, right? In GL we have ASM, accounting setup manager. From ASM, what we can do, We can create the primary ledger, we can create reporting ledger, secondary ledger, we can create legal entities, and there is option to get connected to HR related forms to create the operating units and business groups, etc. Many things, many tasks we can perform from functional setup manager FSM, which is part of R12 in GL, but not everything. From function setup manager, I cannot do setups for payables or receivables or fixed or something else. I can do which are related to more into GL and which are related to multi-org related units. Those only we can create. More than that, we cannot do other setups from the same place. But in the Fusion environment, if you have access to this functional application implementation consultant, I mean, if this application implementation consultant role is assigned to your user, you will be granted, okay, in Fusion, what happens is you will get the access to one application called as FSM. Simple, you can say FSM. FSM stands for functional setup manager. Okay, so Fusion, in Fusion, if you assign the role call as functional set, I mean application implementation consultant, that user will have a access to FSM, functional setup manager. So this is a place where you can do all applications related configuration. This functional setup manager will give you the access only for setups. From functional setup manager, you cannot perform any transactions. Okay, you cannot perform any transaction, only setups you can do. So that is a centralized a place where we can do any application related configuration. From here only you can manage the rapid implementations, you can create the projects, you can track the status, you can assign the particular task to the team members, and you can track the progress of the project. There are many things to manage from here. Because of this function setup manager centralized solution for system configuration, the managers or somebody who is going to head the project, the people who wants to monitor the project related activities, the offline or say outside of the system, they no need to maintain what applications you are implementing, what are the tentative schedules, and which resource, which modules we are assigning, what is the status of the work, how much work has been completed with respect to system configuration, and is there any issue in terms of configuring certain things, how much work is in progress, how much work is in completed, how much work in risk state. All these things can be tracked through function setup manager. This is kind of very friendly future for consultants as well as managers. Okay, that's how we have in the Fusion applications. Through function setup manager only we'll do all the setups. If you want to start with the setups without creating the project, you cannot do any setups in the system environment. You can do, but you cannot complete all the setups. There are issues I'll discuss about those issues, which issues will get, why project need to be created. Those also will touch base in upcoming sessions. Okay, this is what we have in the Fusion application. We'll discuss very detailed level about it. Just I want to introduce as a simple point to make you to understand how it is different when you do the configuration of the Fusion compared to EBS. So this is all about this functional setup manager which we have in Fusion. Okay, that's all about the Fusion application. Again, here when you talk about when you are doing the setups and all from Fusion applications, the terminology also we have a different terminology. Okay, in the functional setup manager, so we have applications, right, to finance, SCM, and CRM. All these applications we have. When you say finance or SCM or CRM, it's a group of products, group of applications. Say suits. So the same we in the Fusion functional setup manager, they given separate naming convention as a offerings. They given, if you say financials, as per Fusion, that we call as one of the offering as per system terms, whatever they given. That means in functional setup manager FSM, you will find financially as a one offering. If finance is one offering, what about the modules? GL, APR, CM, and FA, those are called as options. Those are called as options. That's how we have. Anyway, we'll talk about those very detailed level when we start work on FSM. Before we start with the system, we should discuss very detailed level about FSM, what we should know being a functional consultant for Fusion applications. I mean to say, before you start working as a Fusion financial functional consultant, what you should understand so that our job will become easy. That everything will be discussing very detailed level. My sessions, I'll be running everything, whatever we are going to do, I'll write in the spreadsheet, so you'll get more understanding. Then we'll get into the application. The same what I'll write in the spreadsheet I'll be doing, but I'm not going to write too much where people will be uh, get irritated with my statements which I'll be writing, which really required. Okay, those I'll be writing. If I'm going to do some setups and all, I list out setups, I'll be executing in the system. That kind of practice will be followed. Okay, so anyway, we'll discuss detail level, and we'll go through each and every points. And I think I left one point here which I listed here. So here, functions. When I talk about EBS, we have a concept called as functions. In Fusion, when I talk about the duty roles, within the duty roles, what are the features we have, those only we call as the functions. Okay. Okay, this is how these things can be managed in the Fusion applications. So apart from that, the simple point here is in Fusion applications, there is no concept of forms. Everything will be managed with a single user interface. There is a web page, okay, web-based application which are built upon ADF technology. Okay, that's how these things will be working. And since it's going to be cloud and all, there will be a rich user experience. Okay, that's what we will talk about these more, since that is not part of today's our class agenda. I'm not getting into that too much. Apart from this, or whatever we discussed today, or whatever demo we had yesterday, from these two sessions, or apart from this, if you have any other questions also, you can ask me now. We'll discuss, then we can wind up the session. Please, any questions? I see around 15 members, but I'm not getting any question. I don't know what is the reason. Still, there should be some questions. No question? Prabhakar, Srinivas, Suresh, Vimal.
Almost everything is clear, so I think you would like to see everything in instance from you.
Definitely.
So that we may get more clarity what to ask and how to think and how to analyze for ourselves.
Exactly. Yes, that would be the exact time to ask many questions. But here, just I am asking in this stage, is there any other question which really required for you to understand before we get into the application, so that your experience will be totally different. Your understanding can be more rich. That is the reason I am trying to ask many questions here. Any other questions?
Lakshman, Prabhakar here. Can we do personalization?
Yes, we can do. You can do in any environment. It can be cloud. Please, I request here, once you ask the question, you can mute yourself. I'll be answering. Again, if any cross question, you can unmute, and you can ask me. The reason is from some guys, from few guys, I'm getting background noise. Okay, you can ask me the question and you can mute, okay, yourself. Then I'll be answering in between. If you have some question, cross question, or other additional questions, you can you can again come to that actual just state, and you can ask me. Okay, done. So personalizations. Okay, the question is, do we have personalization? Yes, we have personalizations, irrespective of the model you are opting from Oracle. You can do the personalizations. It can be when you go with on-premise, everything is possible. Everything is possible. Total system will be in our control, so everything is possible. And when you go with the cloud, SaaS model, yes, in SaaS model you can do the personalizations. Personalization, just it's all about to manipulate the some respective object behavior, right? So that is the reason personalizations are allowed in SaaS model also. But in SaaS model, you cannot have a direct database access when you are working. If you want to query some data, if you want to see, we have a separate environment in the BI. In the business intelligence, we have a some space where you can write the queries and you can fetch the data and you can see that too Oracle given that space by expecting you have to analyze the data, you have to see the data when you are developing the BI reports. And that base you have, and maybe with a special uh, uh, terms with Oracle, you may get access to database direct connectivity, how we get in EBS case in release 12 or 11i. That may be possible when you go with this tools and all. When you go with the PaaS model, platform as a service, since we are getting the platform, definitely Oracle should allow you to get direct connection with the database, where you can connect to database to other tools, and where you can query and you can analyze or you can massage the data however you require for the respect different operations. And anyway, in IAS, everything will be in your control, including infrastructure. You'll have a control where you can play with that however you require, however you want to use it. But Oracle will be supporting as per your demand in terms of infrastructure, and they'll give the provision where you can do the customizations. They'll provide tools, and anyway, you can use the application with customizations also. That is yes. Personally, finally, my answer is yes. Yes. Any other question?
May you please explain about abstract roles.
Sorry.
Abstract roles.
Abstract role. See, simple. Abstract role. There is no. I mean, it's not required to understand much because there is nothing much to understand about it. The reason. Please mute yourself. Yeah. Thanks. I can hear some noise. Prabhakar and Srinivas. I request you guys to mute yourself. Prabhakar. I'll do that. Yep. Fine. So abstract role. It's very simple. It's very simple. They classified roll call as employee role as abstract role. If you assign that employee role, to any user, you will get certain privileges. Simple point I'll tell you. If there is user, say we have a user 1. For user 1, if you don't assign the role called as employee, that user cannot generate the reports. I mean, from however we have SRS window, in the same way, equal to SRS window, in Fusion we have a schedule process. That schedule process form access, that screen access user cannot get, because that to get access to that schedule process to run the jobs, means programs or reports, the user require access to employee role falls under abstract role. And one more point here, you may create user from IDM, which we call as implementation user. You may create user from HCM, which we call as employee user. Whatever the user you create, it can be employee user which is created from HCM. You may have user which is created from IDM. Whatever it may be the user, if you need access to that certain privilege, certain kind of accesses to some functions, you should assign the role call as employee. You should assign the role call as employee, which falls under abstract role. We are not going to do anything with that. Just understanding is required. This falls under abstract role. That is the reason I'm discussing here. Other than that, we are not going to play anything with that role. Okay, we are not at all creating any role, not at all required. Oracle made it. Okay, you don't need to create anything. Done. Any other question?
Yes, Lakshman, I have 2 questions. Karthik here.
Yeah, Karthik, please.
Yeah, first of all, as you said, the job roles and duty roles, everything is seeded. So my understanding here is, if you are using any seeded job role, so everything in the hierarchy of duty roles, data roles, everything comes as a seeded as a package of the job role. And then if you want to have any customized job role, then you have to define the other roles from the bottom to top approach and then assign it to the job role.
Yes.
Is my understanding correct or not?
Yeah, correct. You can create the job role by selecting the multiple duty roles. That's it. My job role is nothing but combination of duty roles. That's it.
Yeah, it should be from bottom to top approach and then assign to job role at the end.
Yeah. That much hierarchy won't be there. Simply you'll be grouping the duty roles. That's it. Yeah, as you said, bottom top approach. Yes, we'll do that. But simply you'll group duty roles to simplify the statement I'm telling. We'll group the duty roles, that will become your job role. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And one more question is,
Yeah.
it's a generic question. I would like to know, like, we are just starting into the Fusion, so you might have known entire structure of Fusion and then complete architecture of the Fusion and EBS everything. So I would like to ask a question like, what is a major advantage that you have observed when you look at the architecture of Fusion and EBS and how it is going to help for the companies and what are the things we can put in dreams when we come
Sure, sure, definitely. I'll answer to your question. My quick question here is: did you attend yesterday's session?
Yes, I attended. Yeah,
Yeah, attended.
but
There,
what I understand is please go.
yeah, what is the advantage of this present product means we discussed. If any company is going with one product, they may not get all specialized product solutions. If they go with the Fusion, they can get it. That is the first
Yeah,
great advantage. And since Oracle is more focusing and offering the cloud solutions, these cloud solutions are cheaper than your on-premise. Okay, that is the second point. And here we have a certain additional features where client can opt as per their business, and you can see some additional features. I don't say only those are there in the finance, across other product families like HCM or procurement and all, since Oracle taken from different products. So overall, as an overall solution, there will be great benefit to the clients. And if some clients are going to move for specific area of this Fusion applications, they no need to disturb existed solutions which they have from Oracle or some other products. The coexistence will be supported by Oracle. Say you are running your SCM on Oracle EBS. If you want to go with the Fusion, the coexistent solution is available. Just you can plug and you can start using. You no need to go with too much kind of technical work to get it done, to integrate and to do it. Pre-built integrators are available from Oracle,
yeah, yeah.
which can be done, and there are many more and rich user
Yeah.
interface and social networking possible from here, and approvals mechanism, they made it easy. We have a dashboard facility, and it's all about a complete web you can access from any device. When we are working, it's a bad experience for many of consultants. If you are browsing from your system, you have to download some plugin, and again, if version is different in Internet Explorer or some Mozilla, it won't work. You just that again, you have to uninstall, or you have to upgrade that, this and that. It's a that kind of great application cannot compatible with this kind of small things. You see that, of course it's not a great valid point, just I'm talking about it. So
Yeah, I agree to everything.
yeah, now it's anything from anywhere. You connect from your mobile. If you have Samsung or iPhone, just connect, single click, no plugin, nothing. You can do anything out from that. Doesn't matter which device,
Yeah,
you can play with that. That kind of
yeah, I understand.
compatibility we can see. If you want to understand more about that, you have to wait till we complete the course. You can see many things. You will be writer about it. You can talk about many things. This is how we'll do here. This is the great advantage we can take from here. Apart from that, if you want to understand something else, maybe some people will expect interview point of view, I can talk about it.
Actually, my question was related to the advantages of Fusion over EBS when it comes to the architecture changes.
Architecture changes, that's what. Okay, architecture changes, you can see
Yeah,
more, say the plugin is very easy in EBS. The plugin and all, whatever we do, it's a direct plugin. Okay, you cannot build a mechanism, you cannot write too much rules when you are taking the data from other system to our respective Oracle application. You cannot write uh, many conditions, rules, or more security and all, you cannot build, since we have a middleware as a platform for interfacing or for data inflows or outflows. Through that, you can have a great control on the process. You can build many rules as per your business requirement, and the total security can be handled by this. And there are many other technologies and tools available where those will allow to connect this Fusion applications with any other very odd technologies, or very poor, with a very poor technologies. Okay, that kind of platform we have for kind of any kind of communications where this Oracle platform wants to have with third party or any other applications. Because a simple point I want to tell, when you say middleware, it's more technical aspect. Okay, functional point of view, we no need to just explore them. It's a overall technology aspects. The technology, the complete middleware experts can talk more about it better than us always. Okay, frankly speaking, I am not expert. Of course, you are not saying I am. You are not asking me as I am expecting I'm expert. But to get some points you are asking, I can understand that. But thing is, just these basic points you can understand about middleware technology and all. But there is a
Yeah.
it's a very powerful, we can say, being a functional consultant.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks. Any other questions? Fine. I can see some questions in chat window. Let me take it separately. 1 second. Answer this question. And how is the Swift from EBS to Fusion from client's perspective? Okay. So the question is, how is the Swift from EB to Fusion applications? Okay, fine. Here we can see few clients who are switching from eBusiness EBS to Fusion. Less clients, because already it's you can see if somebody is running the system, so they can in the position of status of stabilized and they're running. That is the reason they may not switch in this stage. They definitely they can switch in the future, and that is the reason there are no many switchings, but new projects are happening in the Fusion environment only. If there is some project, some company is going to start with Oracle application, that simply you can understand that is going to be Fusion, not EBS. And that's how happening. Many clients easily cannot move because of their business processes and application custom process which they build. Again, if they want to move with the application, again they have to start from scratch because of their business practice or customizations or many things which already they built upon whatever the version they're running on. So that is the answer here. How are some clients are saying concerns on security when we go for cloud with the, yeah, see, to answer your question, there is no risk when you talk about security with the cloud. Oracle is max, they are taking care of your security concerns. And I'll tell you the simple point, how great security Oracle is maintaining, even it's going to be cloud. The financial organizations are start using this product. Just then you can understand why other clients has to choose it, why financial organizations will start, means banks. The many banks already running their financial solution in the cloud, that too from Oracle. Okay, as Oracle Fusion Financial as a solution. Done. So I hope this point will answer to your question. And other usage of functional consultant is less compared to EBS. No. Now functional consultant will be playing very vital role. I guess your question may be technical consultant. Okay, functional consultant here will be playing key role only. Even whatever in EBS technical people do as a data conversion, that became functional task. Now we will be doing. Okay, and since there is no much dependency on technical resource here, you may get some request from your team or project manager to just learn basic technical stuff, which will help you to prepare the reports and all. So that is the reason only the core role is going to be functional guys. I mean in EBS, just his question is still continued. I mean in EBS we used to keep more functional consultant. Okay, and that aspect, yes, I can say. Okay, that aspect I can say, but not drastically. It's like, see, normally if you say in EBS you have a two consultant, means that depending on how the solution or big client etc. many other reasons. Here also you can see two, but in the less time frame you can complete it, and the consultant job will become easy where you don't see many bugs and issues, because in EBS case all running in the form base, those will be triggering, and many issues will be getting, but here the bugs and all it's very less. Okay, bugs and all very less you see. In that case, functional consultant job will become easy here when they're dealing with the application, and when they're configuring, and when they're dealing with different aspects, it will be very easy, that I can say. So number of consultants needed for project, that is not, there is no big change in that. You may see, if four people are required, maybe three people. If two people are required, definitely two people. If two people are required, it's not going to get reduced to one member. That is for sure. Okay, but whatever we have to do, that should be done. We are not going to skip anything because of fusion. But what we are talking about, it is a friendly product for consultants as well as clients also. Why friendly? Because we'll see that it's simply, we get no bugs and all will be facing, no complexity. They made it simple. That's why. Okay, done. So these are the questions I can see in the chat window. Apart from these, any questions from anyone?
Lakshman, small one question. Still, we have workflow scope in Fusion.
Yeah, workflow we have as a part of BPM. They're given as a part of BPM. There will, however, we handle the workflow. Here also BPM workflows we have. Okay. We have same concept. But they're simplified, because in EBS case, we don't open that workflow. Being a functional concept, we don't open that flow diagram, and we don't go inside to define the rules. But here, that can be done by functional people, because they made it as very simple. They made it as the task as a functional task. So that's how we have workflow also in Fusion. But it's a BPM we call, business process, means approvals. Workflow why will be using to set the business process, and if required to do approvals, or else just for notification, or else to set some control on the business process. That's the reason that overall cases they named it as a BPM, business process management. For your approvals, you can use for other business process related kind of actions, tasks, deliveries. You can use that BPM. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Any other question? Fine. If no question, we can just wind up the session. And here another point is, we'll be running the sessions every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. 11 to 1 will be running. If you people are interested to attend more than 2 hours per day in the weekends, okay, we are ready to run. Okay, if require 3 hours also, but generally we fix 2 hours also. If majority of the people are going to ask for more than 2 hours, up to 3 hours, whatever, that will take into consideration. Again, we'll speak to the other guys, and finally we'll fix the time. But for now, like, we are fixing this batch schedules as 11 to 1, Saturday and Sunday. That's it. And going forward, if we get a chance of starting at maybe 10 o'clock, we can start, but with all guys approvals who are going to subscribe this course. That's it. And I can give you the guarantee, or I should say assurance, once you complete this course, you can start working as a Fusion financial implementation consultant. No doubt on that, because I'll take you through from scratch in fresh environment, from where to start. Since Fusion is new for us, what we should understand. Okay, you can see these sessions, the yesterday session, today's session, and the same way. The level of understanding wherever you require, and that way will be explaining. Of course, in the first and second session, the points, everything we hear, that will be new. But going forward, since we'll keep working on that, okay, it may not be that much new for you, because once we get into and once we work on that application, slowly that becomes some known things. So, but as per the people, what are the expectations you have to learn and to understand to work on the application? I can set those as a parameters from my side, as those are my targets. Okay, to deliver this training. And once you're done with this training, when you are working on the project, if you need some support, some guidance, what to do, how to do certain things, within my time availability, I'll be available to support you. But don't expect I'll sit for you hours and I'll be supporting. And if you need something, some document, yes, I'll be available to share with you. And if you say this is a situation, how to deal with that with respect to Fusion, yeah, just I'll be available to answer your query. That sort of support you can expect. I'll be there to support you. Maybe you may do training now, and you may require this support maybe after 6 months or 1 year, no doubt. Since you are taking training from us, we'll respect and will be supporting you if you require. Okay, that's how these things will be handled. Okay. Any
Lakshman,
other? Yeah,
sorry to disturb.
please.
Initially, you people test like they will support after some time, but after this session, you people will ignore actually. Not just I'm telling. I heard couple of trainings.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. You try with us, and whether you include in that list or you exclude from that list, you can understand. Okay. I'll give you a reference if you require. The people who taken from us 6 months back also, they are in touch with us. If require, I'll give how many people reference you require. I'll give you straight away. I'm telling with
That will,
contact numbers. With
that will be
contact
great.
numbers. Contact numbers I'll give you.
That's fine.
Because the
That
reason is I'm not that much busy person. I'm not working now. Only I do some freelancing work. The rest of time I am to trainings only. That's what. Okay.
okay.
I want to run,
Okay, Lakshman.
I want to run batches in future also. That is my target. And at the same time, I understand why people are attending training. So that's what. So you are right. You are right. No doubt. Whatever you are raising, yes, I agree. Yes, people says like that. I am also one of them, but I am not going to deal with you guys in that way. Okay.
Okay,
I,
that's
I am
fine. That will be great for us.
I am also one of them in the sense not into that category. I am also one person. That is it.
I'm just telling.
Yeah, correct. Yes. See, not you are telling, but there I can understand. There are some other people who are attending the session who will be thinking the same. I can understand. I can, no doubt.
Might be sometime busy, but I might be incorrect. Yes, I tried couple of times. Those people were
Yeah.
not helping.
But some people, nature will be that. That is also there. I agree with you. They say this, that is just up to statement only, nothing in reality.
Thanks, Lakshman.
Yeah.
Sorry for trouble.
No. See, that is I'll take in positive way. Yes, Suresh. Yes, your statement correct. Not few, many. Yes. Yes, we experience in different aspects. We know that, but we want to just to give some quality better than current market. What many people are doing. Please take in that way. Okay, that will prove. Fine then. Okay. Any other questions, please? If not, if no question, we can wind up the session. Okay, fine. We'll meet in the next weekend, same time. Okay, the guys who are going to subscribe this training will meet the next weekend, and we'll have a sessions from next weekend. I'll start with the sessions. We'll start with this system related configuration, etc. From where we have to start, we'll discuss and we'll do it. Okay, so fine. Okay, thanks for attending this session. The guys who didn't attend yesterday's session, already that video I uploaded in YouTube. Okay, you can you can go and browse. If you don't find in the YouTube, we have, but if you don't find, you can just shoot a mail to us, or else today what I'll do is this video and yesterday video both I'll be mailing you guys. And the other point already we discussed, every session we will record and will be sharing with you. That will be there with you permanently. Anytime you can refer, you may refer or your friends may refer these videos, doesn't matter. We are okay with that. Okay, that's all about today's session. Oh, I'm a lot of noise we are getting from somebody. Please. Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, so thanks for attending today's session. Catch you in the next weekend. Have a good day and a good night, respectively. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much.